podcast, Conversation with Mark and Myrah. This is the second podcast in our series where we take a look at cost of living and just look at tips, hints and tips that we can suggest to people just on ways that they can save money and help to make things go a little bit further. In our first podcast, we decided to talk about motorism and so on and so forth, and looked at ways you can save money on fuel and what sort of things you can do to run your car more efficiently. Today, we're going to look at what we can do in terms of just hints and tips around our daily shop. So what kind of ideas have we got? Things that we have picked up along the way that we can share with our audience, but also it's an opportunity for you to drop in your comments as well. We'd be glad to hear anything that you have to say, things that you've done, and we can see if we can help to move things along. So, as always, it's myself, Mark, and also we have Myrah.
Hello.
And as I said before in my first podcast, and I always reiterate, these are just our own thoughts and opinions and things that we've experienced. We're not experts in these fields, but it is just things that we found for ourselves and our family as well. Mm-hmm. So, Myrah, the weekly food shop, what can you suggest? Is there anything that you've picked up along the way that you think people can use to help to save a bit of money when it comes to the till point?
I leave most of the food shop to you.
Okay. And there you have it. We'll draw it all to an end right there. No. No, joking aside. So in our household, I do the predominantly most of the food shop. Myrah does do shopping on occasion, but I would admit that I do tend to do the bulk of the food shopping. So it's probably myself that would... Sorry, we have teenagers in the house. So it's probably myself that would probably do the most frequent weekly shops and so on and so forth.
What I would say is that when I did used to do the bulk of the food shopping, I would shop in Sainsbury's and Tesco, occasionally Co-op, and I think that Sainsbury's and Tesco are quite expensive, even though you get the Nectar points. We did touch on these with loyalty cards before. Even though you get your Nectar points from Sainsbury's and you get the club card from Tesco, it's still, I think, more expensive than shopping at, say, Aldi or Lidl, which is where Mark chooses to shop. I'm not going to lie, I still do pop into Sainsbury's and Tesco's to get some of my favourite items, but to be fair, they are just treaty items. They're not the bulk of the food shop and they're not our staple diet. They're just little things that I like to treat myself to. But I think it's a good idea not to do the bulk of our family shop in shops that are even just a couple of pence more expensive, because it does all add up when you get back to the till.
Yeah, and what I would say is that the discounters, as they're known here in the UK, the discounter shops, which are the likes of, as Mara just mentioned just now, like Aldi and Lidl and so on. I don't know if there's any other discounters as well in the UK at the moment, but they've been in the country now for must be 20 odd years, 30 years, and I remember shopping at them, from years ago. And yes, they do. I have found no difference in the quality of the food that I get from there. Some people might scoff at it and say, you're losing out something by not having a branded, tin of baked beans or whatever it might be. But I can personally, and within our own household, I don't see any difference in the quality of the food items that we purchase. And yes, okay, people might have a slight preference for a different brand or something, but on the whole, I would say 90% of whatever I purchase from those stores goes down a treat. And that can really have a big difference, especially if you have a growing family. Because we've got growing teenagers, and we know that they're always constantly trying to find something to eat, and we don't get any issues in terms of the quality of the food items that we have.
And can I just say that also There's been TV shows on that have, I can't remember the name of the show now specifically, but there's a show where they go into people's homes and they take everything out of the packaging and they lower the prices of the products, and then they put all the foodstuffs back into their cupboards, and I think it's about a week, they give them about a week to see if they can actually notice what's changed and what hasn't. And oftentimes in those families, there are one or two things that they notice that are different, but on the whole, when it comes to their whole food shop, a lot of the families have made switches to cheaper products, and a lot of them actually couldn't identify what was their so-called favourite product from a non-branded product. And also, I've been doing market research now for about 10 years, and I often, when I say often, at least once a month, when the going's good, I will go and product test. And, you know, obviously when you're product testing, the products are in they're not in any wrappers, they're on a plate or in a cup, and you don't know which is which, they've just got a number, and you've got to taste them, and then you've got to rate them and talk about what their flavours were like and what have you and whatnot. And usually there is one or two branded products within the three of them and one non-branded. And to be honest, I hardly ever choose the branded product or the branded store to be the best flavoured one. And to be honest, they're all much of a muchness. For example, once I did custard creams, and to look at the custard creams, they look exactly the same. They pretty much taste exactly the same. The main difference tends to be the weight of the product and the price of the product. But the product itself, to me, is pretty much of a muchness. I'm not going to spend an extra 10 or 20p on one product to have it taste that little bit better. I'm willing to take a cut for maybe it not tasting so great if it saves me money. And plus, who needs custard creams? You know, at the end of the day, I can live without custard creams. So, you know, that's the thing. And when I talked in the last episode about doing your maths, that's where you have to do your maths. You have to look at these products, look at the weight of the product and look at the price to then actually work out whether it's cheaper or not, because some products are actually smaller in weight and their prices have gone up. And, you know, we have to be mindful of things like that as well.
And it's interesting you said as well there, Myrah, about the fact that, you know, you've been doing market research for a number of years and you'll have, you know, products from different, you know, stores or whatever, but they'll just take away all the things. So you can't distinguish where they're from. And when you taste it next to another one, you can either hardly tell the difference or you can see that one is a standout one. And when you look at it, sometimes you have said to me that surprisingly or not, it's actually been from the main discounter ones. Mm-hmm. It's one of the ones where you probably wouldn't perceive it to be, you know, the better brand. Mm-hmm. And there's been some TV shows where they do the factory thing where they say what's made in a factory. And a lot of cases, the same product is made from the same factory. It's just a case of you know, there'd be one brand line for, say, one particular supermarket, another brand line for another supermarket, and one for another. But it's made in the same factory in a lot of cases. So actually, when you get it home, it's actually made from this. It comes from the same place. They may just change the recipe ever so slightly, just so it hits a price point for them. So when they put it on their shelves, they can sell it at such and such a price. So that's something I would probably get across, because I know I have spoken to people in the past who have they have brand loyalty, and their brand loyalty is usually, oh, I only shop at such and such a store because it's perceived to be, you know, better quality. But I can honestly say that just give it a try. You know, if you've never been into a discounter, you may be surprised at the sort of things that, you know, you can find there. And another interesting thing that we always joke about is the middle aisle as well. You'll go into those discounter stores and they'll have lots of other things that are in there that will entice you into the store in the first place. And you can come out with a swimming pool or something ridiculous like that. But anyway, that's not what we're suggesting for this call, that on this particular podcast about buying swimming pools and so on and so forth. So yeah, discounters. They are an excellent way of going about getting your family food shop, and it can save, you know, pounds, you know, and over a period of time that can really, really add up, especially if you have a family. I joke about it, but I don't have a problem as well visiting these stores, because sometimes if you go at certain times, they will reduce items. they're still clearly within date. They're still perfectly acceptable to eat or consume, and you can purchase them. They've already been reduced. You can bring them home. You can freeze them, and then that's another way that you can save potentially on those extra costs as well. Okay. Anything more to say on the supermarket shop?
I think sometimes as well, it's about what you're buying, because we've, as Mark said, we've got children, and I think we do spend a lot on what we might call snacks or treats, and we've tried really hard to reduce what we buy on snacks and treats, and actually at the end of the day, it's more healthy for you and your children if you buy less of the snacks and treats. And it was really interesting because I was watching, I think it was a news report, and one of the women was declaring how the cost of living is terrible because an ice cream from the ice cream van is now like nearly £3. And I thought, wow, maybe you don't need an ice cream from the ice cream van. You can get a tub of ice cream. You used to be able to get a tub of ice cream, I should say, from Iceland, 1 litre of ice cream from Iceland for £1. I haven't been into Iceland for a while now, so I don't know how much it costs, but I know you can get a litre of ice cream for less than what you would pay for one ice cream from the ice cream van. So some of your savings can come from just cutting out certain treats, cutting them out or cutting them down, or just buying them in a different way. Things like I'm so lazy. I've told you all this before, and I like to buy grated cheese. And Mark is like, Myrah, you do realise that you're paying extra to have somebody else grate your cheese. Now, it's not hard work to grate your own cheese. So let's buy a block. And even the other day, Mark was exclaiming at how expensive a block of cheese is, but a block of cheese is still cheaper than if you buy it grated. So just little things like that, just changing like your own personal habits and your own personal lifestyle and what you're willing to do. And as I say, I'm not talking and telling you what to do. I'm just saying these are my habits. I'm basically telling myself this and talking to myself, like buying oven chips. Mark has realised that to buy a bag of potatoes is cheaper than buying oven chips, and we make our own chips, and the kids love them, and we do chips or wedges or whatever. We don't even fry them. We put them in the Ninja, or Mark will put them in the oven. And they eat just as well, and they're just as filling. So yes, maybe you'll have to do a little bit more, but at the end of the day, we are paying through our nose for convenience. And I think that's probably a generational thing. I remember when I was little, my mum used to make chips, and things like jacket potatoes with just cheese and beans. It's a very filling, nutritious meal, which is very simple and very cheap. So we just got to start, all of us, try to start thinking about how to do things differently, and not paying extra for convenience.
Yeah, and that's a great point as well that you just made there, Mario. I completely forgot about that. The convenience of having things done for you. I take my daughter and we go to the supermarket, and I've say things and I didn't realise she's picking up on it. And it's just like even what we said there, what was Mario said about the cheese scenario. You can have the same thing with like packs of chicken or anything like that. If it's been chopped up or it's skinned or whatever, you're paying for the convenience that somebody's done that. So if you're happy to get a whole chicken and just do that, I'm not saying you've got to be a master butcher or anything like that, but if you do that, you'll find it's cheaper, and it goes much further. So yeah, certainly, if you're prepared to just change your habits, as Mara just mentioned, when you're buying things, it can go so much further. We've got young children. Well, we've got young adults now. We've got them that are starting to go out into the world, and it's a great, valuable lesson for them to know that they don't have to keep going to a takeout every time they're hungry. They have to go to order something on an app to get like a takeaway or something. Or I won't name any brands, but the kind of brands that we're talking about, where you can get fast fried chicken or burgers or whatever the case might be. It's more expensive, it's less healthy for you, and the fact that it's not even great to the environment. So, just buying, just pasta, for example, and just putting some, some pasta sauce with it and mixing that, and that can go a long way, and it's going to save you so much more, and it's better for you because you know what's gone into it as well. Yes, there might be a little bit of preparation involved, but as we used to have watch shows before where they'll show that you could come in from work or wherever it might be, prepare a meal and have it cooked and ready in the same time it would take you to order something in, from a fast food place. And it's so much better for your pocket at the end of the day as well. It's so much better. So I think it's going back to, as Mara just mentioned, I think it's going back to the way we were raised, where our parents, there was no such thing hardly ever of going to get something from the shop. It would be literally whatever, they cooked from scratch. And I say it was healthier, and it was definitely cheaper as well. So maybe these are things that we can all start to do, and it's better for the environment as well. They all keep pushing on about this, but it is better for your health, better for the environment, and better for your pocket. So it ticks all the boxes. The only thing is, yes, there might be a little bit of prep involved, but it's not a huge. Once she's got used to doing it, it's not a huge sacrifice to make. Okay. So moving on, using technology. So I discovered an app a few weeks ago now, and it's called Too Good To Go. Now, I think there may be other apps out there that may have a similar principle, but I like the idea. So what it is, it's linked up with local food establishments in your area. So it works on the location of your device. So it will look at, within a certain area, any sort of maybe pubs or carvery places or shops that sell food or anything like that, and rather than them having to dispose of any unwanted food items towards the end of the evening or shift or whatever it might be, they actually will load it onto the app. It will let you know that they've got it in their area, and you can purchase those items, go and collect them, bring them home, and you've got freshly prepared, warm, very tasty meals and foods to your delight, and you can save a huge amount on the original price of it itself. So
it's about half price, would you say?
I'd say it's actually even more than half price. I would say it's probably 60%, maybe even up to 70%, depending on where it is you go. Then it can be hit and miss. We did try one or two that it was okay.
We wouldn't do it again,
but we wouldn't do it again. But we're glad we did it because at least we know. I don't get me wrong. I think it would actually tick the box if you were just a single person on your own. Then I think it would. It would work for you. But we discovered another one, which is a local pub to where we live, and it basically they do a carvery. So it's all of like the veg items that towards the end of the evening they probably have got surplus of it. So you'll get like the creamy mash and parsnips and carrots and cabbage and the whole works with gravy and all sorts. And it costs a fraction of what it would have cost if you were purchasing it, the full price menu. We bring it back and we can hardly eat it in terms of the volume of there as well. And they're great as well because also on the app it shows you how much you've saved and also how much you've done for the environment, because then that's food that they wouldn't have thrown away, which is then having an impact on the green footprint of yourself, and the carbon footprint, I should say. So I mean that's great, but I'm sure there's other apps that are like that as well.
When I like to go out to eat, and I've been using Groupon for ages, I don't even think I will go out to eat at a restaurant or anything like that unless it's a Groupon. And I've been using Groupon for years, and it's funny because we love watching a TV show called Blackish, and that's an American show, and they literally mentioned Groupon on there. And I know I've been to different parts of the UK, and I've seen that Groupon goes with you. So whatever location you're in, it will tell you the Groupon deals for the area that you're in at the time. But I did not know it was global. I didn't know it was in America as well. And the family in Blackish that we watched, the Johnsons, are quite an affluent family. So for them to even mention Groupon really, really surprised me. And again, like Mark said, the quality varies. We've got some favourite places and some not so favourite places maybe. So it is a bit of a gamble, but for the savings, it's worth it. The customer service team with Groupon, I think, are very good, because I have had to have some refunds, and they've always refunded me in a timely fashion. The discounts are variable depending on what you want and where you go. But definitely, I do not go out and eat now without checking Groupon first. In fact, I wouldn't go if there isn't a Groupon offer. And you might say, "Oh, but that's expensive." But we're trying to give you money saving tips, but we're not trying to tell you not to enjoy life or not to go out and do things. We're just trying to share more cost effective ways of doing those things and living your life in a way that isn't going to literally cost the earth and isn't going to expense you too much. Because if you can find a cheaper way of doing something, then as far as we're concerned, it's worth giving it a go.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, Myrah, because you and I have dated from when we were very young, when we were literally in our teens, and back then I suppose cost of living wasn't a huge thing at that time. Well, in fact, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't even something we really thought about. And as youngsters, we used to go out for restaurants. We used to go to some really fancy places, really, considering how young we were. But it was never. I can't ever. Okay, yes, there would have been places that would have been out of my price league. Of course, there would have. But I never really gave it much thought. We would go somewhere and say, "Oh, this is nice. Let's try this place out," and we would go out and have meals and so on and so forth. So that's been part of our DNA for years. Mara and myself. But yeah, as Mara mentioned now. I myself, I would do exactly the same as was mentioned here. Is that you look at things like Groupon. There's also one called Voucher, which is another sort of coupon thing, and you can get like breakaways. You can have like little city breaks or evenings away or something like that as well. And you could be going somewhere and someone's paid probably twice as what you've paid, and you've paid less, and obviously you're in the same place just by using a voucher. And I think a lot of these restaurants and a lot of places now realize that they have to offer these type of things just to get people, entice them in, just so they can get their name out there, and it's getting a reach for them. But yeah, certainly look around for the apps, as I mentioned before. I'm sure there's more than the ones we've just mentioned, or there's bound to be.
I was just going to say as well, because you get some offers on your is it your AA card, which links quite nicely with what we said in the previous chat that we had. I can't remember now which card. Is it the AA card?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so with my AA membership, they do up to 25% discount on certain, certain. I think there's like Toby Carveries and sizzling restaurants. So certain, and they change, but sometimes they'll change every few months. So it won't be that one; it'll be a different Green King and all sorts of things like that. And they've come in really handy. We've been out on journeys, haven't we? And I've just quickly looked at my app and said, "Oh, actually, we can get 25% off if we go to this particular one," and that really helps us because we'd be like thinking, "Gosh, look how much we've just saved just by doing that."
Yeah. And some people will have that and not even realise they've got it, because it's not really something that they advertise or shout about. It's just an extra perk. But if you are an if you are an AA member, then I suggest you have a little look, because it might surprise you that you have that that benefit, and you maybe don't even realise you do. Likewise, with my Halifax card, I have a cashback scheme on my Halifax card. I think I pay extra for it as a benefit, but my insurance comes in there. It covers my car breakdown as well. So it's not just the cashback. And again, if you look at that, if you're a Halifax member or whatever bank you're with, just see if they've got any benefits for you, any discounts. Because on that one, there are some discounts and there are some cashback opportunities too. So, you've got to really keep your eyes open and check if there are any of these benefits going around.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that again, because it just got me thinking. I think I have changed provider now, but with my old mobile service provider, which was O2, they had certain things where you could get like a free coffee from Greg's or free sausage roll or something. It's just really just something to just entice you into. But it's there, it's free, and why not use it? And sometimes, like you just said, we don't even check, and they could be offers there all the time, and you're not even realising, like buy one coffee, get one free or something like that, And it's good that you mentioned about the cashback thing, because there's one that a friend introduced me to years ago, and I've been using it, which is called Top Cashback. Whereas if you purchase something online, any online shopping that you would do, you just go through that app first, and you just purchase the goods as it is, but you'll get some kind of cashback come back from that, and it adds up. So at the end of the year, you might have maybe a couple of £100 in there, and that could go towards your Christmas shop, or you could do, and the things that you would have done anyway. So you just think, well, why not? So there's a lot of incentives out there. There's cashback cards. Check your memberships that you've got, be it with AA, be it with as Mara just mentioned, her Halifax Bank. There's lots and lots of things that you've probably got already where you can get rewards, as they say, and have those back too.
And just one more thing, and that's, well, I don't know if Mark's got anything else, but one more thing from me is that you may or may not know that Mark and I did a show called Bargain Brits on Benefits, and on there you will find lots and lots of hints and tips, some probably more favourable than others, but one that I saw on there that, and I'm mentioning this because I didn't know about this one before. A lot of the hints and tips I already knew about, but this one I didn't know about. And I think it's something to do with certain stores. If you have a particular app, I don't know what app it is, I'm suggesting you go watch the show, Bargain Brits on Benefits. But I think it's an app. And if you buy certain products and then you take a picture of them and then you scan your barcode from the supermarket, they refund you your spend as well. There's a few episodes of Bargain Brits on Benefits where people have said they do that. We haven't done that, but I think that is really, really interesting. And I'm just thinking now, why haven't I done it? And I think I haven't done it because it sounds like it's long. But then if it's going to save people money, it's going to save us money, then maybe that is something we could look at in the future moving forward.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think we're coming up to time.
We just wanted to say that if you have any ideas, hints, tips, suggestions that you'd like to share, then please do feel free to leave them in the comment below.
Yeah, and please subscribe to our channel, because we'll be making more of these podcasts and uploading them. And if you want to be able to find out, then subscribe to the channel so that you'll be notified as soon as something new comes along. And with that, we'd just like to say a fond farewell.
Yes, goodbye.
Okay, thank you all. Bye-bye.